Good morning, this is DJ Johnny at JDM FM, and today I'm back in Penketh to try and find out where Penketh is. I know it starts here at the Red Lion and then moves on somewhere else. Well, let's go and have a look at it. The Red Lion is an ancient pub. It was one of the first pubs that they ever had in Penketh, and you can see even today it's still going, which is nice. But this forms the beginning of the village itself. The village used to be on an old road going across there. Now they've got a huge dual carriageway going through it, which has spoiled a little bit, so you can't really see where Penketh is anymore. But we'll still have a look at it anyway. So this is the Crown and Cushion behind me. It's not the original pub, it used to be a really ancient pub. And this is actually part of Penketh, because Penketh used to go, the village of Penketh used to go from the Crown and Cushion to the Red Lion, which is just up there, which you saw a few minutes ago. Now this is interesting because this pub used to be called a beer house, not a pub. And what they used to do here is they used to sell cheap beer. In the 1820s, or before the 1820s, lots of people around these areas and villages used to drink gin and spirits because it was far cheaper than beer. The tax on beer was too much. So in the 1820s, they decided to change the act and make beer cheap, and they could make it so it could be brewed in places such as this place behind me. And it meant that people could come along and drink a beer which was far safer than water. In those days, water was awful. And just next to the Crown and Cushion, in fact over the road, and the road is actually called Stocks Lane, just over the road here, there's a piece of land. Now this piece of land has always been a spare piece of land, either a car park or whatever. In fact, at the moment it's got a fence all the way around it, and it's just simply not used. But on this land here, it used to be, would you believe, the Stocks, right next to the local pub. The Stocks was here, so if any misdemeanours had occurred by people doing naughty things, they'd get thrown in the Stocks here, and people would throw tomatoes and cabbages and anything else at them, just to belittle them and humiliate them so that they wouldn't do it again. This is Greystone Common. Well, Greystone Recreation Ground now, as it's called. It used to be absolutely massive. Over 100 acres all the way around this sort of area, and Doe Green, which is over there. Nowadays it's a very small parcel of land, a recreation ground. It's for the good of the whole community, so it's still here, but a lot smaller than it used to be. The name of the common, I don't know where it's come from in the first place. I've looked, I can't really find very much information. It could be the name of a family at one point, but I like to think it was perhaps something to do with stones that came down from the Ice Age, that came down from the glaciers and everything. There was evidence of some big stones around here, which local people actually later on took these stones and put them into the gardens as a nice feature. So I think that's probably that's why I like to call it. It's called Greystone Common because of the stones, the grey stones. Wow! There even used to be a racetrack round here, around the whole lot. Oh, in a massive racetrack going all the way around. The local farmer decided, a bit entrepreneurial, that he'd build this race course and they'd start gambling and make lots of money. Unfortunately, some of the locals didn't like it, and they plotted against it and actually got rid of it completely. But they did used to have wild donkeys on here, so what some of the young kids did at school, they used to find donkeys, climb on them and have a bit of a donkey derby. And this is the Quakers meeting house, the Friends meeting house, it's probably known better. But nowadays it's a community centre for Penketh. Nice little place. It's built in 1849, really old, and built by the Quakers because there was nowhere at all to meet in those days. So this was the place they built so they could have meetings and discuss things and all sorts of other things. And in fact it was built in this graveyard, and you can see all the stones here, all the gravestones are actually people who died, Quakers, from that sort of religion, all those years ago. The Quakers certainly had a lot to say about Greystone Heath and the racecourse that one farmer decided to build. They didn't like betting and gambling and drinking or anything like that, so they decided to get rid of it. So they did. This house behind me has got a really interesting history. In the war, the BBC, British Broadcasting Corporation, bought this particular house so they could use it for radio shows. Amazing, yes, I know, in the middle of the war. So in the wartime, this had 2 studios, Studio 1 and Studio 2, and they used to broadcast all sorts of shows on the radio because the radio was really big in those days. But I'm not sure it was also used for Burton Wood, which again is another video I'm going to do in the future, maybe to relay messages and things like that in the war. Dear me, can you imagine the BBC here in Penketh? Whoa! So, I've come to a place called Tannery Lane. This is Tannery Lane. A nice, tranquil setting, a nice place, all brand new houses, all very nice now. And it's actually over the road from Fiddler's Ferry Power Station, which you can see over there. The interesting thing is, of course, it's called Tannery Lane because it used to have a tannery here. It used to have a huge tannery here. Dear me. Before it was a tannery though, it was a brewery. They actually brewed beer here. I think it was about 1880s or thereabouts. The guy who bought the brewery was called Robert Garnett, who actually was a benefactor of Penketh and bought lots of things for the village as well. But Robert Garnett was also a Quaker. He was one of the friends that we've met before, and he didn't like beer drinking, teetotal completely. So he got rid of the brewery in 1880, and he built a tannery, a very prosperous tannery, huge tannery, and they continued to grow and grow and grow for many, many years. And in fact, in Warrington, there was over 20 tanneries all the way around, huge tanneries. Tannery was a huge business in Warrington at one time. But of course, with the when the use of leather was not required, when plastics came out and there wasn't as much of a market for it, then tanneries declined and they went abroad where it was a lot cheaper. But it actually must have been quite an incredible place. Huge buildings all the way up, big tower. Actually, it also must have stunk to high heaven as well, but that's another thing. There's money there somewhere. I'm absolutely amazed at this place, isn't it? What you can find in a little place called Penketh. This is Penketh Hall. Now, this building behind me is not the original building, although it's pretty old itself, probably late 1700s, something like that. The original buildings were actually behind in the sheds at the back, and I think they've even gone now, although the sheds that are there look ancient. It was before that. That was where the original hall was. But in the 1400s, this was the manorial home of Thomas Penketh. Now, Thomas Penketh was one of the lords of the manor. He was also a very well-respected soldier. He also became a friar. Friar Penketh, as in Warrington. If you go to Wetherspoons there in Warrington, you'll see the foundation stones of the old friary at Friar's Gate. Well, this is the guy this is where he came from. And he was even mentioned in dispatches in one of William Shakespeare's plays, Richard III. Amazing. So that was Penketh. Whoa! It's a huge place, and I've not got around half of it. It really is huge. I've not had time to go around everywhere, but we've seen loads and loads of things. We've seen Greystone Park and the race course, and how the race course was taken down, and they never used it for horses. They used it for a donkey derby. We've seen the Quaker place, the Friends Meeting House. We've seen where the village started for the Red Lion and going on to the Crown and Cushion. We've seen the BBC house. Dear me, we've seen the tannery. Dear me, and now we're back here at Penketh Hall. What a story. It is incredible. I've just not got time to go around the whole place. Anyway, hope you enjoyed my little video, and whatever you're doing, hope you have a fabulous time, and see you again very, very soon. Bye.